Thank you for joining XROM, which is India's first AR VR focused podcast. And today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Anurag Banerjee, who is a gaming and technology industry leader with 18 years of Web 2 game industry experience, working on various AA and AAA game titles in engineering, leadership capacities at Ubisoft, Rocksteady Studios, Warner the Games, and Improbable. His game titles include Batman Arkham, Assassin's Creed series, Suicide Squad, and more. And currently, he's the engineering advisor at Game 7 and CTO at Living Cities. So, Anurag, really appreciate you taking time and being part of our humble podcast. Why don't we start with a small intro, background, and your journey in the gaming industry?
Thank you for having me here, Eddie. So as you know, it's like kind of you're giving a good overview. I was going to say a few things, but of course, currently I'm CTO of Living Cities. That's a company which is trying to build a platform to connect real places to its virtual twins. More on that later. But my prior experience, say, has been in engineering AAA game titles. I've been in leadership capacities and also providing games as a service. So in my pursuit of while building this game, I started from India. I was doing work in Mumbai in Jump Games, and which has become Paradox Studios. It was the name of the company, became Jump Games, now it's Reliance Games. Um, and But that was my first entry into the games industry. And since then, I really wanted to go into advanced technology. So I moved from India to Canada, where I worked on several. Initially, was the Ubisoft games. I was making casual games for Wii, PlayStation Move controllers, stuff like that. And then I moved into Warner Brothers in Montreal, where I was working on Batman Arkham series. From there, I moved to in Singapore. I was on the Assassin's Creed titles, working with Ubisoft. I was in leadership capacities, and I worked on three Assassin's Creed, or two of them where I was the leader. And then I came back to London about 6.5 years back, where I was working with Rocksteady Studios. They are the original creators of Batman Arkham series, and I was leading their Suicide Squad game on the engineering side as well, which is due to release next year. Um, I was doing all these games one after the other, and this is where it gets interesting that I found all of those games were very similar, even though they were large AAA games. The game design is different, but I was finding like I wanted to do something more out of. I want to be doing it at the innovation side, because once you do one particular game title, you become you are like kind of stereotyped around that, and it's like, okay, next game is going to be around that. You keep building on it, but you're not learning. So I'm looking forward to what is the next generation, what is the next technology. I want to do that. That's when Improbable got my attention. And They were building a spatial OS technology. More on that later. But So I was leading their engineering team, that of engineering there, and finally, um, um, I'm kind of also, because I was doing so many Web 2, Web 3 games really caught my attention, and I was fascinated by that world. I really feel the future is going in that direction. So, and I wanted to jump in deep. So, my last game at Improbable where I worked, which was on Yuga Labs, other side metaverse is what we build on Web 3. And now I'm doing that more. But with Game 7, I'm their advisor on how on kind of games we are building. More on that later. Um, and at the same time, I'm working for Living Cities. So yeah, basically, this is kind of a as short as I can make it. That's my journey about how and where I am right now and what I'm trying to do.
Lovely. How cool is that? This, I mean, your journey from Mumbai, from Jump Games to building some of the top AAA games, that we all experience, and you rightfully pointed out, I think the entire gaming industry is evolving so rapidly. There is photorealistic content and AI, which is being integrated. So there's some really, really cool innovations happening in the space of gaming. And you mentioned that you've been part of Improbable, and Improbable is doing some really, really cool works, in the space of the metaverse. You mentioned that they're building the spatial OS tech. Would you like to talk a little bit about Improbable and your role over there, and the works that you built over there?
Absolutely. So while I was there, I kind of mentioned that I was migrating from the building these AAA games to something which I truly ahead of his time, truly ahead of the technology. So I wanted to step out and challenge myself with a new technology and games. So basically, be the innovator and not the follower. That is when Improbable caught my attention. And as mentioned before, Improbable has kind of built a technology called Spatial OS. It is built to handle low latency, high volume, high throughput data replication. Lots of terms, but basically what it allows us to do is build massive concurrent multiplayer games and experiences. It comes out of the box, enabling you to build these experiences. It runs multiplayer networking as a separate server-side process, scaling to hundreds or millions of interactions per second, enabling thousands of players to join a single virtual world with increased level of simulated content. So you can have so many players, and not only just players, because when we are having a network environment, it's not just players are being replicated. You're also looking at all the AI, every object which you are interacting with, everything is being replicated. So what Improbable technology allows you to have that millions of interactions per second, which is where the main power comes from. And there's a magic recipe behind the scenes which allows us to do that. So the company's project Morpheus software is kind of able to support right now 10,000 players in the same space in the same time. So currently, if you look at Fortnite and Call of Duty Warzone, there are like 100 people, 150 people in one single game session. I'm talking about 10,000 players plus AI NPC. So that's a totally different paradigm shift. And so the project Morpheus kind of brings thousands of people together, the single shared space to create high density crowd like you have never seen before. There are videos of this available right now on YouTube. You can see. Then well, we can render tens of thousands. So it's not just about network, but you can render them as well in a small space, uniquely customized animated characters and stream facial animations to everyone around you. Um, you can create the social dynamics through proximity-based voice chat that lets you talk to people nearby and hear the buzz of the sound and everything else who people are talking to. So, for example, if you find yourself in a concert, so you will be able to talk to people next to you, but you can hear that buzz, that murmur. That all is being real time simulated. So people are shouting, you can actually hear. If they're chanting, you can hear. That gives you the atmosphere of being in that space and time. That's what Improbable tech actually allows you to do. So it kind of already exists. It's not fairy tale anymore. That's We can do things like Ready Player One right now, and that is what I'm trying to say here is that Improbable tech enables building something like Ready Player One.
So far with the metaverse obviously has been the multiplayer problem, like you said, these rooms in these Fortnites or these other games, you can have rooms with only possibly 100 concurrent users and you can't go beyond that. But you're saying that with Improbable you have built this spatial OS tech called Morpheus, which allows 10,000 users simultaneously. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? When do we get to actually see that? Because that's a major roadblock when it comes to metaverse adoption. And who are the other competitors who are building something like? Because I heard that there's this company called RP1. It's a startup, and they're building a metaverse architecture, and they're supposed to demo a shardless metaverse that can support around 100,000 users. But by when do you think this can get realistically available to startups who can build on this?
A lot of people are actually trying in this space. There are a lot of competitors, but I will have to say that Improbable has been the first and the foremost in this particular space. Everybody started after Improbable has already reached, so it kind of got a head start. There are a lot of cool tech is being built right now, but this, what I'm talking about, already exists. I can actually link you some YouTube videos and all, which will showcase that you can also participate in these experiences. This is running live. What I'm saying. It's not far-fetched in the future. It's just more about like taking that and building a simulated experience, which will now it's much more engaging because it's not that always you cram 10,000 people in a small space, it becomes interesting. So the game mechanics, how you actually build a metaverse, what is the social space, all that aspects come into. So that is being developed right now. But the tech and to solve this problem of what I'm talking about, that already exists. I can show you videos which you can see. It's in YouTube everywhere, which will elaborate what I was just talking about. So that's an advantage we have. A lot of other people are, we haven't said like when I was working with Improbable, but a lot of other people are they are also working on this. This is the very cool research being done everywhere, which is very exciting. But I have not seen anything which is close to completion, which actually can demonstrate that, where people can participate. So you can participate in these open play tests because they're actually inviting people all the time. Um, Getting 10,000 real players without actually having a game, it's actually a tough one. So we have technologies to simulate players as well, just to exert load on the servers. So we see that's actually running, and our technology can scale up with these numbers. We don't really always get 10,000 players. That's a challenge. So it's open for anybody to come and join those gameplay sessions to just see the power of the technology. So yeah, it's not far off. Like it's available right now.
The kind of things happening at the cutting edge of technology is really, really mind boggling. I think possibly in the next couple of maybe decades, we will be able to kind of simulate a physical world, because that's what the journey of virtual reality is, because we have pretty much managed to simulate, sound pretty well. We can do ambisonic spatial sound. We can do 360 stereoscopic visual pretty well. The haptic feedbacks and those things, once it starts coming and once it binds, I think we'll be able to build these realistic virtual world, where we could touch, feel, and the businesses, the experiences built on that layer could be really, really fantastic. You mentioned also in the course of the conversation that you built out the other side metaverse for Yuga Labs, and you were serving as the director of
When I say
engineering.
yeah, other side metaverse from Yuga Labs. If you Google, you will be able to see that what is the current state of completion of that. So that's already in progress. That's the demos I was talking about. Before even those demos, we have other demos which showcases the power of this particular technology. We have created events called Alexa events, and all those are all live, which basically you can see the characters. One massive character who is actually doing live performance, and the events being shared by thousands of people. That's all being been built by my team basically when I was working back at Improbable, because they actually help out with the technologies. Basically, Improbable is behind all of these individual experiences, and I had the privilege of working there.
Lovely, super. But would you like to give your version of what the metaverse is? And after the hype, post this Facebook rebranding as metaverse, this currently they are laying off around 11,000 office staff. How do you think this is gonna affect the industry?
I personally feel the metaverse is a social space where people can live, work, shop, interact from anywhere. It's just one liner is defines that. In my opinion, it's not 2D, it's not 3D, it's not VR, it's not AR. It doesn't really matter. It's what it is a social space where people can do all of these things together. They are virtual economies which binds these different experiences for what you can actually do and achieve. So that's what matters the most, in my opinion. Right now, if you, in my opinion, like if you say that, hey, one team can build a metaverse, I would say that is impossible. No one team can actually build a metaverse in that regard, because what we are trying to build is that um, see, I have companies which are very good in providing education tech. We have companies who are very good. Meta provides very nice infrastructure underneath there. They have experts in that, in the social space. Then we have companies who can provide much better games. That is not Meta specialities, and that's somebody else who's basically creates engagement and all. There are different game studios there which will be providing. So um, the like I was saying, that's making this as a single metaverse, one team owning it is virtually impossible, in my opinion. The glue to all of this is interoperability. How do you make the software is interoperable? What is open source? Because ultimately, people would like to be able to build on top of that infrastructure, allowing different companies, different projects to connect to each other, and that is what we are going to see. So, for example, if I go and tell you, "Hey, I'm building a metaverse," I'm saying basically this is what I'm trying to build. Um, like as soon as I am a metaverse, it becomes a very, very massive term. Like all those ingredients which I just talked about needs to be true for us to actually build something like this. So open standards. Like if I tell you like, hey, go build this because I'm saying this is the open standard, everybody will follow. Nobody will actually go and do that. But once I create something, I showcase how these additional external components will talk to this particular system and make a one coherent platform which enables people to come and build on. That is going to enable the metaverse of the future. Not that, hey, I make a metaverse as a product. Metaverse is not a product. It's a platform to enable all these different kind of social interactions in one place, and social, economic, education, all of this in one place. So it's a longish answer to your question, but and there's nobody who can say definitely this is right, that is wrong. But if you ask this very question about what is metaverse, that would be my answer. That nobody really knows. But
Right.
what I know is that not one company can build it.
Right.
It
So,
will
so,
be a
so
collaborative effort.
uh, I, I get that, I mean, because you said that, when you're building the metaverse, it's got to be collaborative. It won't be one company building it out. You mentioned about interoperability and open standard, and obviously, I mean, with the metaverse, the conversation, we also have this conversation of Web3, which is going to be powering the decentralized creator economy and stuff like that. How does this work out for traditional businesses? Because I think so far all the businesses have created business with a product in mind, and we live in a capitalistic world where everything is profit at any cost. Now this metaverse Web3 is completely different. It's extremely difficult for me as a common man to digest that how this will actually pan out. Would you have some kind of insights on how what is interoperable? Would that be possible? I mean, where I'm building out something, but it'll be available on all the other platforms, and if I'm creating something, it would be open source. How would you like to share your insights on this?
I think the first question, so in my opinion, like currently the enterprises are going through a very rapid transformation phases, right? Like they have realized that it's not about fighting. So initially, when you started off with Web3, these companies were in a state of denial. Then they start looking at it and say like, well, there might be something there, but not our worry for now. Then they start looking at how the trend is going in that direction. And I think we are in that phase where they're now trying to see, okay, how can we coexist with the decentralized approach? Right now, there's no such thing as a true decentralized approach. It's going to take years for us to get even close to that because the technology barriers are there. Um, Having said that, it's a very lucrative aspect to think about. So when I say interoperable, I'm saying handshake mechanisms between different projects is doable. For example, you say you want to in a social space, talking to your friends like in say in WhatsApp, and you say like, "Hey, I want to go and play Fortnite." Well, let's go. That's because the people you're playing friends in Fortnite, you press a button and you're already in a group chat. It makes a party and put you into Fortnite if you have that installed on your computers. So that is what is doable at the moment with having this. If the companies do agree and align on this is what they want to do, there is this cross communication, the player authentication, the online services, what we talk about. Like you authenticate yourself on Google platform, how do you authenticate yourself on Steam? There are different mechanisms, different friend lists. These things are very doable to organize them under one umbrella, and having the cross communication between different authentication mechanisms. So that's the doable one. What's at the moment is extremely hard to do, saying that, hey, this is this open standard, follow it, and then we will be all be interoperable. That's not in the psyche of these big enterprises. They do not want to go outside and say like, hey, I'm a big enterprise, A, I want to work with somebody else like B who is doing very cool work in this. That even if they internally admit, they will not externally go ahead and do that. The only way that will happen is when you demonstrate that there exists a platform which is working very well with others, by creating these kind of handshake mechanisms. And this platform is also built, say on open source. Most of it is built on open source platform where you can take, extend, modify, and create your own version of it. As long as and that open source automatically over a period of time will become standard. um, nobody will follow standard if I tell. That's my personal opinion again, but nobody will follow standard if I tell you, hey, go and do that, because there is no such one government sitting on top and saying like, hey, everybody will have to do this. There is no such thing. So the collaboration, everybody is going to be self-centric for at some point of time, but it will, like, as evolution happens over a period of time, it is inevitable that the migration will happen in that direction, because you see the power of the decentralization and how um, your data is secured, and you are the owner of your own data. That is so powerful, where somebody decides, I want to switch off the server now, and then all your progression is lost. So all of these things, so it is the way to go forward when we actually create these experiences, when we demonstrate to the world that this is doable. And I'll come to that in a second as well, with some other topics. But when we showcase this is actually doable, that is when it will start. But at the moment, we are far from that truly interoperable place to be. It will be done in steps. You demonstrate what could be interoperable as a base layer, and then build on that. And if you go with the approach that, hey, follow these standards as IEEE, but nobody does that. So at least, yeah, that's my opinion.
Right, right. Now, you've been in the gaming industry for over 18 years. You've seen the entire evolution of the gaming industry. And today there is some interesting dynamics being played out. AI is being more and more being leveraged for game creation. Web3 has come in, blockchain games come in, DAOs are being leveraged. For someone who doesn't understand all of this, would you mind to kind of bring clarity on the future of gaming, and how do you see Web3, blockchain, DAOs being leveraged?
Kind of, you have to go back in the past to go look into the future. It's actually a very incredible journey actually to see how things have evolved. We started with the arcade industry, Pong, last like 1960s, 1970s. That was the first successful game. And then Batman came along and then made 1 billion. And that at that point of time, that was huge. The arcade industry was so huge, it is comparable to the PC game industry right now, around 40 billion in size. But it doesn't exist anymore because we have options. And that's where the interesting dynamics of it, something that's so popular still can actually vanish because you need to be keep working on it and adapt. However, some very cool work is being done right now to bring that back. And I think there is this version of something which you can't do at home, you can do it in arcades. That's coming in, and there's several different initiatives going on, which is very exciting. But in general, that's what has happened to the arcade. But if you think of the biggest rise has been in the mobile industry, where the market capture is like nearly 50% of the entire game industry is captured by the mobile, right? Now, with the advent of AR, VR, XR, and then with PC consoles, we are connecting all of them together. And that is making a huge difference in terms of what the world, which way the world is going, that the gaming industry is going towards. The world of gaming is really making an exciting turn, which is trying to make it seamless to travel between social space to games to education to anything you want. Like, if you think of it, Matrix and Ready Player One, along with others, have shown us how the future could be. However, the coexistence of the virtual world with reality is $1 million question. What a that kind of remarkable time to be alive, to be honest. We're on the cusp of some ideas, but not actually knowing, and then having the opportunity to really shape the future. That's where we are right now. It's a very privileged position to be in, because once you are, say, if I'm looking back at arcade games, imagine those people who are in the thought process of making those arcade games and then became reality. We are in the process of actually creating this kind of metaverse. It will become reality in our lifespan. How? That's a different question altogether, but it's that's where it's actually so interesting. DAOs, the decentralized autonomous organization, again, loaded term. It means that it's a kind of emerging form of a legal structure that has no central governing body, whose members share a common goal to act in the best interest of the entity. It's been popularized through the cryptocurrency enthusiast and blockchain technologies. DAOs are used to make decisions in a bottom-up management approach. That's very, very popular. So most games are developed and managed by the company that made it currently. The Web2 games are like the example of this. The gaming community usually has to accept whatever the company decides for the future. The power to make decisions is concentrated within very select individuals of that organization. Designers, creative directors, they make the call. But if the game is a DAO, it means that the power lies with the community. The community members have the influence over the major decisions of the organization, and the direction of the game will be decided by the community members that have a stake in that organization. One such example is that Axie Infinity. Now it's gone through not such a good phase, but at one point it was actually extremely popular, and they allowed people to stake their tokens. So anybody who has a stake in it has a say in what the game should be and decisions in making game, which became very popular with the community, and in turn it helps skyrocket the overall popularity of that game, which not many Web2 people actually know about, but that was an extremely more popular and sort of solid game. So this is what the newer way of thought process is coming in. It's like a game. So I have to also say that initially, when you actually want to create a game, there is a certain point till somebody has to conceptualize and then get it to a certain place where you can have those decisions, because at one point you do not know, is this decision better or this one is better? And that's where the DAO starts coming in, and then you can leverage on the expertise of the community, or the more of the people say like, hey, I want to play it. Immediately you have the engagement of those people who have said voted yes for that. You know that they're going to play the game, so automatically the game does well, because the community who are actively playing the game are making the decision. So that's a kind of a mindset which is coming in, and the Web2 games are also adopting this, even if not in terms of crypto, but they're adopting this in terms of how we can leverage our community better. There are so many Discord channels open, not just for Web3 games, for Web2 games. So, and you said this is how the transition is happening. And this is where we are right now. Over a period of time, you will see that more and more, because they see the benefits of it, they go towards it. And that's how these things are merging. So myself being in the Web2 game for so long, I can just say that Ubisoft has also tried and their own tokens and games. So they are also endorsing it. Of course, they're also a bit skeptical about the market and everything else. But that is the future of how do we build games together as a community, and with all the metaverse initiatives, all these things coming together on the backbone of Web3 technologies. That's the future in itself, and like I said, it's very exciting times to be here.
Lovely. These things are so profound because, so far we have lived in a world which is extremely hierarchical, top down, and here we are, a complete upend of how we, do business itself, where the community is, it's a decentralized autonomous organization where there's no core authority which runs the organization, but it's from bottom up with the community kind of driving it forward. How this pans out is something which is going to be super super exciting. I think in the next few years the entire dynamics are going to change, because besides the Web3, there's AI, which is growing so rapidly. There is stable diffusion, which release the platform, and where it's you can you can just type in and an image appears in a text to image. What does that do to the designers, to the creators? These are conversations I think we need to have as a community, and create some kind of a solution where even the creators, because I think we need to have some kind of a marriage of sorts, where with the human creators with these machines, because I think that is inevitable, but the initial dynamics obviously is going to be pretty much disruptive, and how we address that is really important. You're also the advisor of Game 7. Would you like to talk about that and some of the works that you've been building over there?
Absolutely. So Yeah, I'll also touch that the AI part a bit after this, but the both are very interesting topics. So, like, I'll start with Game Seven because I was mentioning. So, when we talk about DAO, this is hard to miss Game Seven because it's an autonomous institution with a treasury that is managed and deployed by the community. So, this is another example of it's the treasury. This community will help shape capital allocation decisions, define gaming standards, fund open source software, and actually help make the gaming industry sustainable by ensuring it's equitable and fair. So it's actually a very bold attempt to create and gamify a community passionate about shaping the future of the gamings by kind of helping the fund builders, empower educators, support creators. The Game 7 kind of believes in that the future of gaming should be owned by the community and welcomes anyone who would like to contribute to the future of sustainable gaming in the Web3 space, of course. So the Game 7 treasury will be invested in infrastructure, tools, communities, basically removing barrier to entry to a lot of companies who actually want to come into Web3, but there is a steep learning curve, and that pushes some people off. So it wants to create those like, hey, already works. Like you can start, this will be a building block, and then after you build whatever and safe, it is. We know that it works across. We have multiple done all kinds of testing on it, so the industry has faith in that. So, and also Game 7 believes in the open source software. So, while some software should be free, no one should have to work to free to build it. So they have a grants program that has no expectation of financial returns. So what they do is they aim to help builders build, removing the stress of like, well, I want to build this cool technology, but hey, well, I have to also feed my family. So what do I do? And that's where the very good ideas just die. So Game 7 is there to actually help push those things forward. Um, and then they also do organize global sports events and things like that, so that bring communities together, so that they understand. They're also hosting academic conferences. They did a recent one in gamer event in USA in November, beginning of November, which was actually a major success. So basically, in a nutshell, Game 7 is built by builders for the builders. Like they have very high level of expertise there. I've worked with the team in there in and out, and I know the expertise they bring to the table, and all of them want to bring this industry forward because their goal is like um, we have to work together to get to the successful. It's not just one person's thing. It's very, very similar to my ideologies as well. With an extensive catalog of products, builders can fork, they can contribute or integrate their tools and help them build more sustainable games. That is kind of the overall things what Game 7 wants to achieve. So that's another very, very good use case of how DAOs can make a huge difference in terms of where we are and what we want to do. And I think they were asking about the AI, and that's just a fascinating topic in my head in terms of how things are growing. Like as you were talking about the text, and then that creates things. So there's tools where DALI existed earlier, but now there's another tool called Midjourney, which is a kind of independent research lab that produces like kind of proprietary artificial intelligence program, kind of it creates images from textual descriptions. So that's another one, and and it's open source stable diffusion. That's where the power of that particular engine is. Now the question is like, how does it help content creation, or how does it help the world? And I will tell you from my own personal example, directly working in the games industry. Whenever we want to start, we start with a concept. And the concept is like the creative director will come in like, hey, I would like the world to be this way and that, and it needs to have these many things. The best way to explain that to the mass audience is that they work with the concept artist, and then they help to draw those things down, and that's where any project starts. Uh, um, because that's immediately you can when you people see things, they actually understand better when somebody explains. Here, and the problem with that is that even though you have very, very good artists, it takes time for them to grasp the idea, go and draw it, and then come back to say, is this what you want? Oh no, let me make some changes. Is this what you want? And that process takes time. Like it could take sometimes weeks, months, for them to be able to showcase the first demonstration of that. Here, a creative director can say, and I've done that myself. Like I want to have a Batman game in Assassin's Creed world with characters looking like Scooby Doo, like random things. But it will actually draw that, and it will paint that, and then you will see something. Okay, what could actually look like? And you select an ultra HD, large, massive. So it listens to that, and so immediately you have something available for you to showcase. Hey, this is what I'm visioning, without having to go through that. So that expedites the game development or any concept development process, any imagineering process. That's I seen extremely powerful. But that's not the only thing. That there are other technologies like I know that you were covering Luma AI. It's using nerve scans, and that's another very tool which we have our eyes on, because what it can do, quick scan, get the content, and now that you have a 3D model of something which you can use for your gameplay purposes or whatever it is. And that's another extremely powerful thing to open new kinds of games. Yeah, Promethean AI. Basically, it's this is another AI tool which helps create virtual worlds. So it has a library of objects, and then you can talk to it and basically tell it what it wants, and it produces that. So it's a very cool technology in itself. Again, machine learning based, and it understands what you're trying to say, and it categorizes the objects in buckets, and then and from that library it will pull in and do things. And there is then the true AI. Like the journey basically here is that we have to combine all of these things in some form to actually create some immersive experience, and hopefully that will come later. Uh, and this is where all of these tools, but AI is not just about these content creation. We have another tool called Houdini, which populates the world based on AI. So you can set up some parameters, and it creates the visual effects in films and televisions used by major VFX studios such as Walt Disney Animation Studios, Pixar, DreamWorks, etc. It's another powerful one. But outside of this content creation, you can look. The AI is also helping creative this immersive worlds, which is basically characters who the NPCs, which you earlier were like, you will see the earlier games will just be kind of dumb AI. They are just sitting there and doing some animation, and they do not have any kind of immersive behavior in them. We are creating that world now, which is basically these characters mean something. They have a story. You can engage in conversations with them, and they will adapt to what you are saying, and that makes it very engrossing for people who just want to roam around and talk. Everybody has a story to tell, and it's so, and that makes it again very engaging. You want to spend time in that world, and this is one of the problems with the current generation of metaverse engage people who try to build it is like kind of soulless. So several different implementations which was about AI and usage of the gaming world and how it is actually changing. It's just incredible. Something which we are trying to do at Living Cities.
Right. Yeah. Super awesome. Because these things are so cool. Yet, at the same time, it's scary. You mentioned about Promethean, which generates world. You mentioned about procedural world generation, and there's some super awesome things happening. I think as an artist, you need to be a lifelong learner, and you need to leverage these tools and help yourself create better experiences, because so far I think we've always tried to push away and create that conversation that only a human being can be creative. Well, fair enough, but I think we also need to understand that this tool can be a solid partner to help you in your journey into create experiences and content, and those who leverage that, I think, will be able to create a better future. Now you are the CTO at Living Cities, which comprises a complete rock star team. So would you like to talk about Living Cities, its vision, and what's it like working along with John Gita?
Everybody at Living City is a rock star, to be honest, except myself. Yeah, it's a privilege to be there. So, well, Living Cities is something which is trying to create real place, like connect real places with digital twins. Now, digital twins, we have heard, it's not a new concept, but a real place, not just one object, it's a real place altogether, and bringing that to life to the mirror world. Like kind of, we are building a social layer intertwining the metaverse and the reality. So kind of we have much rich experience and express who we are to each other between back and forth. So because in real life, it's also very important. Not just it's you all spend your whole time in virtual life. So it's just about how does these things coexist. This is where living cities comes in. So we're trying to capture the spirit of the place, actually. The current, it's just touched it a bit about earlier. The current metaverse initiatives are mostly empty. They kind of lack their soul. You go into that and you find nobody, and the AI also is there that they're just standing there because again, to build that skill metaverse, you need to you are limited by all what can you put in because everything is occupying memory space, bandwidth. So there's limitations on that, but in living cities based on several different initiatives which we just covered, like we can do a lot more by becoming an aggregator, bringing all these tools and technologies together in one place. um and the and coming back to the spirit of, so for example, if we have a, a park in India versus a park in New York, and there's the different kind of, there's not just the park which is different, the park could be identical. The reason why they're different is what people are doing there, what are the kind of how they're communicating, what are the language, dialects, everything. That is what brings the spirit to a particular place. We are trying to capture that at real at living cities. So and we're building a consumer product enables the kind of new forms of self-expression. So it will reflect real people and places out to the global audience of the virtual world. So imagine I'm in a real world. I record myself and I can upload myself into the virtual world. So even though I'm doing some performance, and I can not only I can share the performance live, but somebody has recorded, myself recorded in a selfie camera and uploaded that to the virtual world. So immediately my reach is so much more massive, and that's the power. But also you can reflect the creative freedoms from the virtual world back to the real. So if I make a digital twin of, say, of your room, and I change the couch to Game of Thrones or everything like that, and then you open your phone and then you see, oh wow, this world looks very different. So any AR, VR devices, PC, everything act as a window into the virtual world. So while you're in the physical world, you can see the creativity of everybody else. And then you can go and see like how does it actually match, what kind of engagements I can do back and forth. The sky is the limit in terms of what you can do. You can start something which is and give an object to the virtual world, which they can take and make these amazing gameplay. Again, this is sky is the limit here. So it's kind of what this will look like as a consumer experience, ultimately like delivered on open Web3 protocols, and there's a 3D space where virtual world looks and feels like a real place and is aligned with that place. That's very important. It's just completely aligned, not only just about the physical location, but the time of day. If it is snowing in the real world, we will make it snow in the virtual world. So all of these things aspect, what it means is that you can see what that's the world looks like in different way. What if I want to have a snow looking blue instead of white? So and you can change that with some artist, and then just they paint a mural on a wall, and then you can immediately see without actually destroying the heritage structures what we have. For example, in the Taj Mahal, you might want to paint something. A lot of people do, but you don't want to destroy our national heritage. So we want to save that. But in the virtual world, you can do things and share it across, and still it remains there forever. So and that's the power of that. So new and the new AI adjacent technologies allows us to express ourselves in 3D, like I was talking about the Luma AI, the Mid Journey. All of these things could be used as tools for us to make that 3D world more engaging. That anybody coming in there can talk about, hey, I want to this thing to look like that, this bench to look like Game of Thrones, or I want this to look like painted in a different color altogether. So you can just say the command, and the virtual world can adapt to what you're asking it to feel like. So you are in creative control, which the real world people can also say and interact, which is amazing. So we already have actually a build which does that. These things are again not out in the future. This already exists. We have a demo. Unfortunately, I can't share those things. This is not in a place for us to share, but is there in the works, and we have made some considerable movements here, which is very very exciting for us to be. And yeah, and last but not the least, what we want to do is not just build these one-off experiences. We want to be the Roblox for real world. What it means is that because they are real life locations, so we want you to be a platform which enables you to create multiple of such scans. So you can ultimately maybe scan your own room and put it there. As long as real life location, you can be what, because that is what we care a lot about. It has to be real life location, which will create a virtual twin of. So we will provide tools, APIs for you to be able to do so, and we will provide some of the iconic places ourselves so that it's actually high fidelity. And the visual fidelity of this is it's very very high. So we use certain technologies which enables massive reach for everybody to be able to participate and view that world. So it's kind of brings all the tools and technologies what we kind of talked about right now, from the economies on Web3 to the machine learnings, AI, everything together in one space to enable this particular vision. This is our vision, which we feel is going to be really powerful. But anybody else can also do that, and this is open for people to collaborate on and to build this world together. And that's what we want to create.
Lovely.
So
Sounds super awesome. Wish you and the team the very best. When does the build go live? And what are your views on India as a market opportunity? Because I mean, we are a hub for developers. When it comes to metaverse, as well as Web3, developers. Plus, there's a huge movement right now with some of the biggest companies, some startups also playing a role in the metaverse and the Web3 space also. Is there any partnership opportunity that you're talking to here in India?
well, so again, this is we'll keep those things under wraps. Unless this is material I'm able to share, I will not be able to share. But what I will talk about is that first of all, our versions will be out next year to play for you to be able to actually start experiencing that content. The first version of it, it's going to be relatively small, but you will be able to see what I'm talking about. And because we want to be able to build the whole infrastructure, but this is where it starts. So you will have the first version of it as early as mid of next year, so it's not far off. Um, the coming to the point of India as a market, I personally believe that India has the brightest minds, uh, like as good as anywhere else in the world, if not better. Like we have seen multiple examples of leaders all over the world uh, from India, and this is what it shows the caliber of people, what they can actually achieve. The problem which always comes, and the reason why I had to like step out to just learn to educate myself in this technology, is that we are mostly followers, and we follow a pattern. Somebody says, "Oh, all right, we'll implement it, we'll make it much better, cheaper." We are hardly an innovators. And although the situation has changed drastically last few years, I would still say we are far from where we need to be in terms of like maximizing our potential. So India has missed the beat on terms of console. They were following PC, they were following mobile, also they were following to a certain extent. Although India has made some good advancements in the mobile technology themselves, but they were always following. I'm really glad to see in the Web3 space and metaverse, India is coming out with a lot of initiatives. I'm looking at, I'm personally following. Again, I can't talk about those at live, but I really feel that India is a hub of developers all over, who are very, very capable of pushing the boundaries. And I would love to work with them directly, and do it together, get the talent pool, and uh, give them the exposure, build the innovative technology together, not just oh, we somebody's built and then you basically make it better. Let's build it together, because definitely there is this potential which is, I really feel it's needs to go out and show to the market that what it can do. So I would like to use this medium to actually open up for any kind of partnership of Indian metaverse. I've talked about what Living Cities does. And if you have interest, if you have talent, if you have resources who are excited by this, please come and reach out. I will be happy to engage and see what our future partnership collaborations could be. So yeah, like that's what I was said, to anybody, students, entrepreneurs. Uh, One thing I would say to the students, like to me as well, when I was growing and was doing my engineering, I was also one of those people like, hey, so like this looked like cool. Let me try and make this the same thing in this way. Instead of saying let's make the whole thing. And this new technology is cropping up. Let me be the person who builds something. It's not important that it is actually very good looking or very engaging, captures the market attention, but it is important for you to get a feel of end-to-end development and shipping something out in the market. Once you have that, you have broken the barrier of that. Hey, can I do this? Because you can, but it's more about go and do it and get it done in a fashion as quickly as possible. It doesn't have to look pretty. It could be debugged, but as long as you've gone through the entire cycle, the confidence it gives you, that is, and I'm talking again from my experience. When I went out, I was very paranoid about working on this console. Like I had no idea, and these engineers from outside, they were very very good because in colleges they are actually trained to build these things from scratch. So I was very paranoid. But once I made one, two, and that's basically your confidence level goes skyrocket. Then it's like, oh yeah, if you can do it, I can do it. Why not? And that's what I would like to say to the generation right now, because you have all the tools. Probably one of the best internet technologies. 5G is here in India, so there's nothing which is preventing. So please go out and innovate, because world is waiting for that. To be honest.
Uh, thank you, Anurag. It was a complete pleasure to talk to you. Insightful conversation. I got to know so much about technology, the gaming industry, what you guys are building. Wish you the very best. If entrepreneurs or startup community would want to reach out to you, where can they reach out? And what comes next for you? What's your future roadmap or a moonshot?
Well, first, the easiest way to connect to me is through LinkedIn. As you also reach out to me, LinkedIn or directly, I'll pass on my email to you. So you can also, you already have my email, so they can also, if somebody's interested, please share that directly with them. Do not want this. There is no such thing as um, please do not hesitate. Like that's what I'm trying to say is that reach out, because the worst can happen is that it might not work out, but still the connections are there for life. And that's what matters the most, and who knows what happens in the future. So that's the thing about reaching out. About the personal, so moonshot wise, I would say my personal moonshot is to kind of create a really comprehensive AI driven 3D world builder tool, which is an aggregate, which is an aggregator for all the different tools we talked about: Luma, Promethean AI, and everything else what we can think of, which builds a compelling world to be shared instantly. So AR, VR, XR, all are mediums, just to look into that. So for example, think of I want us to not only just say, hey, I want to create this object or I scan this and create some objects, but I want to go to an extent that, hey, there's the game, this open source game, and I want to just by verbal commands, say it starts with a Rocket League or FIFA, and I say like, well, I want these characters to be Walt Disney characters running around with a football, and the AI does it for me instantaneously, and that is what is it's going to be compelling. That I want a Rocket League, cars fighting, but I want to have that in space with spacecraft instead. So the my AI goes and creates that whole world for me, and then I said I want my rules to be created. This goal should be here. This is how much points I with. This is how many characters I want to be able to play this while I'm talking, and I'm creating an engaging experience and bring my friends in. Imagine if we can unlock that, what we can generate and what kind of immersive experiences we can generate. That is out of this world. And the thing is that it's not that far off as well. We have the building blocks. People are building the building blocks. I'm trying to bring them all together into one space where it gives them all meaning individually, and then they can participate in something much much larger. So that would be my personal moonshot. To be able to get it to, it's going to be really hard, but who knows?
Anurag, really appreciate you taking time being part of the podcast. Wish you for the living cities. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. And this personal moonshot, you're talking about a 3D world builder AI tool. How cool would that be? Because I think it would completely disrupt everything, how we do storytelling, creating art or creating games. But yes, I think we are pushing the boundaries of what would have been completely impossible. We are getting into a world which everything is possible, I think. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. My listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you, Anurag. Really appreciate this.
Thanks for having me here. It's been a pleasure.